Yes, thank you for joining us for Woman-Run. If you're not familiar with Woman-Run, it's an initiative started from Wright Lindsey Jennings to support women that are running businesses or want to start running a business, and anyone that is supportive of those efforts to build a network and have education opportunities for women in this space. And we're happy to be part of the Venture Center family and here with Garbo Hearn. She's the co-founder of Hearn Fine Art and so many other things as well. We've been talking about lots of things of just amazing art areas and broadening for technology, but let's talk about Garbo and who was the Garbo that founded Garbo or Hearn Fine Art.
Okay, so I want to start by thanking the Venture Center, Wright Lindsey Jennings, and you, Meredith, for taking your time out to be a part of this, because it's so important as a woman to share my successes, my failures, and just have that conversation. So thank you for inviting me to do that. I'd say 34 years ago when I started my business, it was initially Pyramid Gallery. Then it moved to Pyramid Gallery and Books, and then Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing and Hearn Fine Art. So it's evolved over the years. Who was I 34 years ago? I was a young mother. I had a 1-year-old. I was expecting another baby that was born 2 months later. So I was of the mindset that I was going to have all my children before I was 30. So that's a whole other story. But initially, I came to Little Rock to go to school at UAMS to finish my nursing degree. So I am a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
So moving over into the art business was a big jump for me, but I did it primarily because my husband was interested in the arts. And one of the things that kept him in Arkansas was that we started this whole conversation about Black culture. And art was one way to do it. We were challenged to start this business because there was not a gallery in Arkansas that focused on fine art and primarily Black artists in a sense. So it was kind of a challenge to do it. And because of his profession, someone had to make sure that we ate. So, and I wanted to be in control of my time, and I wanted to be able to raise my children. So I wanted to own my business so I could bring my children with me. And so there was a lot of flexibility to do this. So it was very personal, but at the same time, it was a big learning experience to take the information. And, I worked as an intensive care nurse at Children's Hospital. And of course, that's not a job that you call in sick because you're trained to work in that space, and it's not someone that can pull from another floor, so it wouldn't really be fair to my family for me to. So I was fortunate enough to be able to try this, and I never expected it to fail, but I never expected to be in it this long, in a sense where I would not be a nurse, but I still am a nurse because that's just part of being. I still have my license and I use it personally, but I was a young woman, we could say fearless, like I'm willing to try it, I'm willing to learn, and owning a business and running a business is about understanding priorities, what goes first, and you learn that in intensive care because your patient's not breathing, you don't go say, let me take the temperature, So the same thing about running any business is understanding what has to happen. You've got to do the business things, you got to pay your taxes, you got to take care of your employees, and you've got to, moving forward, understand, the industry that you're in and understand your client base. So I would say I was young, fearless, and ready to, do new things, but I really wanted to be in control of my time. And once I realized the importance, I really didn't understand how important art was in your life and how it evolves and how it tells the story of your culture, your life. we eventually opened a bookstore, which was really eye-opening for me because there were so many things that I did not know about my culture, and I learned, and I didn't want my children to grow up not knowing who they were, as I don't want my grandchildren to grow up not knowing who they were. And I think that it's important that we learn about all cultures, but it's important that there's a niche or someone who is an expert or just has focused on it, because we are a platform for the state of Arkansas. We're the platform for Little Rock in terms of coming to a space that, that's our focus. I think I've answered 25 of your questions.
I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but I'm going to focus on the platform.
Okay.
And the focus on African American art, and your decision to provide that platform for Little Rock and the state as a whole.
And yeah, we started primarily, our first artist that we showed his work was AJ Smith, who was a professor at UALR. He's a good friend of my husband Archie, who again is my business partner, and just the impetus of what we have put together, and we continue to work together. And then we started as a print gallery, so we showed prints, and I think that the Cosby Show was a real catalyst to our start, because everybody watched the Cosby Show. They talked about the art they had on their walls, and there's this piece called the Funeral Procession that I, to this day, do not know why everybody wanted it. And people would come into my space, and I had it on the wall, and they say, well, I like it, but I don't like that frame on it. So I was like, well, I can frame it, because I realized early on that when I went, got the business together, that I had to learn how to custom picture frame. So I went to U-Frame It, and I was really, I think they felt sorry for me because I had a baby in the oven and one in the car. So they really did all the work. They just wanted my credit card at the end of the day. So we were able, but I learned how to do it. I know how to do it. But I realized at that point that it was more than just selling you a picture. You had to do the whole 9 yards. And when you take this picture out of my space, you don't want to have to go find the frame and all of that, and helping you figure out how to make this picture yours in terms of the type of mat, the type of frame that would fit your environment. So that kind of fell into my lap in the sense of knowing how to take care of my customers and keep my business going. So that was one aspect. And then when we opened our business, we had a partner on the other side of, we were on 12th and Fair Park, and Genesis Bookstore was a Christian bookstore, and they were there, and they opened along with us. And actually 6 months into being there, our landlord paid us to leave. It's a gas station now, so I'm assuming they got a really good deal. They were like, okay, we gotta get rid of these people. How are we gonna do this? We're not gonna break their lease. They have nowhere to go. We'll figure out. So they gave us the rent that we would have paid them. They gave it to us and said, okay, you got till January to find somewhere to go. So this was in October. So they went in another direction. They went, I think, further down 12th Street, and we went downtown on Main Street. So literature really plays a big important part of our life. Books are paramount to have in your space, and just that type of thing. So we ended up adding books because authors, self-published authors, needed a platform to share their books. I can tell you one person, Elin Harris, who ended up being a New York Times best-selling author. He was selling books out of the back of his car. And I was like, well, why can't we just do a book signing? We did a book signing for him, and it was very successful. And he ended up getting signed by Random House. And he said, every book that I open has to open in Little Rock. And he would make them fly him to Arkansas to do his book signings. Of course, he would go to the major Barnes and Nobles and everything in the area. But he was loyal because we saw him, the importance of what he was writing and sharing. So it's those kind of stories when you talk about a platform for artists and authors. So we represent now local, regional, national, and international artists. And it's, when you meet an artist, and I like to work with artists who have that signature approach that you know who they are without looking at their name on their piece. And they are committed to what they do. They don't do it to get paid. Everybody likes to get paid. We know that. But this is a God-given gift that comes out of them, and they create because they're passionate about it. And if you're good at what you do, you will get paid. And if you take, the proper business acumens, but that can't be the reason why you do what you do. Money can't be the impetus of why you do what you do. It has to be something that makes you happy, something that you would do for free. And there are a few people that take that leap and figure it out, that I can be happy and I can eat and I can that type of thing. So that's the type of artist that I like to work with. So that's really been very for me, just one of those satisfying things where we can bring people to Arkansas that would not have normally come, and we can introduce them to patrons who meet them. And it's a family thing. There's no, that's all transparent. I want you to meet the artist. I want the artist to know who has their work in their home. And when you go to wherever they live, I want you to go by their studio. I want this, because what goes on your wall is important. In your home, it's very personal. And when you put a hole in the wall, you want to be able to know, why did this man paint this dress yellow? I mean, whatever's important to you, but we want to make that experience for you. So we're about putting people together and, facilitating. I don't feel like, I'm not a salesperson. I can't sell you a piece of art. I can't sell you a book. I can help you figure out framing and that type of thing, but I feel like I facilitate. That is why I have such a range of artists. I mean, if you came in the gallery now, you probably think I was crazy, because there's so many types of art in the same space, but it's a tribute to the last 34 years and the artists that have been in there. But it's about showing emerging mid-career master artists to show that how important art is. So it's I could go on and on. What's your next question?
I mean, listening to you talk, it reminds me so much of Crystal Bridges, because I've done so much work with them, like as a volunteer and just on the Arts Council, because they reframe everything almost. Yes, they do. And they have a lovely library. And they also make sure they're local artists. They're encouraging people to go to those galleries or the studios and watching people make the art. And it's very, very personal. And so you're embodying the same thing here. The gallery here has changed as well over the time. So let's talk about the gallery.
Well, as I said, we moved around town a lot. We started on 12th and Fair Park, then we were on Main Street, then we were in the Museum Center down on President Clinton Avenue. But when I moved there, it was Markham Street, East Markham. Okay. And I was so upset when I got all this business cards with all my address, all this stuff, and then I got this letter, oh my God, the Presidential Center is coming, we're changing the name of the street. I was like, they didn't have grants back then. Okay, we're changing your address. You had to redo it, but we did, and it was really a good experience being there, because we were there before everybody else was. Yeah. And not knowing what was going to happen, it was just, again, it was by the grace of our Creator that things have happened for us, because on Main Street we had realized that we were growing out of space and we wanted to build a building, and we didn't get the loan, but we forgot to take the sign down. So our building sold. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not leaving until you find me a space that I can make it my own. And so Charles Moret was our realtor. And so he said, okay, I got to sell this building. I got to make this lady happy. So he said, the only place I can think of is somewhere that, nobody knows what's going to happen in the River Market, but I'll take you and show you the Museum Center. And it's a space that you can create and make your own. And we did it, and he was like, at first he was like, the space we were right in, when you walked in the front door, we were the space that you saw. And we really tried to make it forward thinking because we did, the latest and the greatest lights. We did hardwood floors. I mean, we spent all the money we made from that sale to really create that space to make it inviting and to create the books and the framing, put it all together. And he was like, well, don't you just want this little space over here? Because this is where, this is reserved for a law firm. And I was like, well, do you have a deposit? And he said, no, I don't have a deposit. I said, well, what is it? And I said, here's your deposit. So he had to give it to me because he didn't want to give it to me, but I got it. And we were able to make it our own. But, that space was great for us because it put us in the center of what was happening. The River Market became, when the presidential library went up. I mean, we were right in the midst of everything. I think we were part of what I saw the River Market being was a cultural arts district. We started Second Friday art nights. There were galleries, and that changed over the period of time because the focus moved more toward that Beale Street type feeling. So the arts kind of took a second back street. So I realized when it was time for our lease to come up, we had been there almost 10 years. And looking at the amount of money we were paying for rent and what we were about to pay, and looking at what my husband was doing is in his practice, he's a family practice physician. We decided that we should build a building and we should go to a neighborhood that would accept what we do, because 90% of his patients were Black people. And, my focus is Black culture. And then we moved to the Dunbar neighborhood, which the history of that neighborhood was so amazing. And we're right across from Dunbar Middle School, Sue Callan Williams Library, Allison Preston. So the history is there. There's a stoplight right there. And so, we belong there. I mean, that was a space so his office is there, the gallery and the bookstore. So we were able to expand it and make it our own. So I think that, understanding and hoping that this is our last move. But, my husband is so innovative. He's always already thinking about what else I can do. I said, well, we're about this age. It's time for us to, so at any rate, so it is what it is. So I'm excited about where we are and what we're doing, because as we say, we are a platform for authors and artists. We do the service custom picture framing because we realize the importance of what a frame can do. It's not there just for aesthetics, it's there to protect your piece. So we do conservation framing. So this whole evolution of my business has been because of what my client needs. And in 2004, people would come and say, well, I bought this from you in 1988. What is it worth? Blah, blah, blah. So I ended up doing appraisals, but I did it because I knew how to do it, but I really didn't have a formal way. So I decided to take a summer, and I went to NYU and I got my certification in appraising. And in 2014, I took the I took the test to become certified in Black art. So I'm certified to do generalization, but specialty as well. So because my clients, they needed that. They wanted to donate their work. They wanted, for insurance purposes. Yep. So I had to learn how to do it. And then other people decided, I want to sell my work. Well, you can't really move a secondary piece in a retail gallery. So my husband decided to go become an auctioneer. So he has an auction license. So we have an auction house, which is located next door to the gallery in another house space. So what do we do? When do we sleep? Yeah. So
I love this because this is what women do. Like, they recognize the things that their customers need, and they go and they sleepless nights of learning, and also going to New York and learning all these things.
Well, that summer was really amazing for me because I was in this one block of NYU, and I was not adventurous. I would stay in the dorm and walk that block, because it was very. My husband came and he was like, "Well, why did you do all of this when the place you need to go is right there?" And I was like, "Well, I just followed the directions," but it was very informative because they, in that class you go to all the museums, you get in the back room and you just see how the world of art really works, because art is very political. You know, it is, it's more than surface in a sense, in terms of when you see Christie's, Sotheby's, all of those things that play into why art is worth what it is and what it is. It's people that make that decision. You know, they buy a piece of art for themselves, they buy one, put it under the bed. 20 years later, voila, here we go. So, I mean, unfortunately, that is the case with every politics are in everything, but being an appraiser, you are, I guess you get access to understand what's happening, what's going to happen before it happens. So that was really important to me, being in the art business, not just being a retail gallery selling art, but also understanding the the laws and all of the things that are important. So, doing appraisals are serious business. If you donate a piece to the Internal Revenue Service, you have to back it up, which is why you and I couldn't connect, because I was isolating myself to make sure this appraisal was right, because, your name is on the line and you do something wrong, you can go to jail. So, and when I sign my name is very important on a certain appraisal, on all appraisals, but it's eye-opening.
Yeah, there's a whole nother discussion of the buying up art and those things, but let's focus on the business aspect of art.
The business aspect of art.
So
specifically,
a lot of artists are unsure of the value of their art.
Okay.
I mean, you got the appraisal aspect,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know you have an ability to counsel people on okay, I'm a new person, so my kid does art. And granted, he's 15. But other people, as they progress through their art,
Mm-hmm.
you have talked to them about various things. So how to actually consider the value of that art before they are a name brand artist.
That's very interesting for me to determine what your art is valued at. The only way I can do that is to look at the history and the market and what you sold for. That's how appraisals are come. So when you start as an artist, you're an emerging artist, you're new at it. The first thing is this your profession? Is this a hobby? If it's a hobby, it's in a whole nother world. If this is what you're going to make a living at, you figured out how to be an artist and be an artist. You could be an art teacher, but you really need to be in the art world, something that works in your profession that you're constantly learning. And then creating art is a full-time job. If you're going to create a body of work, you can't just have one picture and say, oh, this is my picture, it's worth $1 million. And I said, well, what else you got? The one hit wonders with songs, you know, that one song, you never hear from them again. So really, artists must create a body of work before you can really, are you taking this thing seriously? And then if you create a body of work, what did you create the work on? Did you make sure that you were using materials that were gonna last forever? Or did you just get some construction paper and just draw a picture on it? Did you use the right type of paint? So all of these things come into play when you create artwork. The cost of your material, right?
Yeah.
Let's think about that. And then think about the time that you put in. Now, if I went to college and decided to get a BFA in art, if I went to got an MFA, that all plays into the value of my time, because I took the time to get an education or whatever. And I'm not saying that you have to get an education and have a BFA or MFA to be an artist, because like I said, all of this, I think that art, visual artists have a talent that is given to them by the creator. So it's not something that somebody can teach you to do, but if you have a good teacher that sees the skill that you have, they can help you hone your skill. So that's why I think it's important that artists do take the time, if this is what they want to do, to go forward and get an education and learn the latest and the greatest of what paints and all that. So it takes any profession that you do, you have to go get the the skills to do it. And there are self-taught artists who are lucky enough to get that big break in the market, and they get a patron who's going to support them. But they too still go, they meet other artists, they find a mentor. I mean, there's so many different ways to get an education other than the traditional way. So as long as you realize it's always on the job, continuous training. So you think about, you know, how much time did I take to educate myself? What is my value per hour? Just like when you go get a regular job, you know,
Yeah.
you get a degree and you know what your market, what should you be paid? So you think maybe I'm worth $50 an hour. Did I keep a check of how long it took me to create this piece? It took me 10 hours to create this piece. Multiply that by my hourly, what I believe I'm worth per hour. Nobody can tell you that but you. And, you know, what did I spend on the materials? Did I frame my piece for presentation? Am I thinking that the client is going to take my piece of work and thumbtack it to the wall? Did I invest in my piece of art so that I could show it appropriately? Okay, so then if I'm going to be an artist and create work, am I going to find an agent to help me sell it? Am I going to put my work in a gallery? So I got to realize there's a commission involved and all that. So all of that comes into play in the value of my work. So these are the kind of conversations we have to realize that this is serious business. And, you know, then you look at it and say, is this realistic? When you put all that time and you put all that numbers on the papers, because you got to be realistic as well.
Yeah.
And then you say, am I going to make all my money on one piece of art? Am I going to do 12 pieces of art and figure out how to make this work for me? And then, am I going to make reproductions of my work? That's another way, you know, so there are different ways understanding if I'm going to be in this is a business, how am I going to survive? You know, what kind of support base do I have? Do I have someone, do I have a patron who's going to support me? Is my mom and dad, will they, you know, foot the bill? Do they believe in me? You know, that kind of thing. Not that I say go to your mom and dad, but I'm saying everybody has a support person. Do they have a spouse who says, hey, you know, do what you need to do. I'm going to support you. You know, I'm going to, as long as it makes sense, you know, I'm there and I'm, you know, and I was fortunate to have that type of support from my husband, and he's right there with me, hanging pictures. I mean, this is a family business. So you got to realize the support that, you know, your family has to give you, or your significant other or whatever. So it's a lot to consider, but it is just it's a template of how to do that.
So a lot of ways, it's like normal business. Like
It is.
We think of art as this contribution to society, but
It is.
I mean, it's still what a willing buyer will pay a willing seller.
Right.
And also there's the cost of goods,
Right.
and are there going to be friends and family that are going to contribute to your business?
Mhm.
And so all of those things come into play.
Mhm.
So thinking of art more as a business,
Mhm.
I mean,
Realizing that you are not an island unto yourself, realizing that you do have influences. I mean, you may see a piece of art that you absolutely love and you go home and create the same piece. Well, you can't do that. I mean, I guess you could, but you shouldn't really do that. You should put your
not
own
the copyright attorney.
Yeah.
No, should not do that.
But I mean, it's nothing wrong with being influenced by an artist and recognizing that artist, calling that artist up and saying, hey, I really love your work. This is what I did. What can you see me, you know, can you help me, you know, develop my own taste, my own. So you got to understand networking is so important. Collaborating with other people, other artists, being in an artist group. I mean, there are many artists that paint together, and, you know, understanding criticism is good, because if someone tells you everything you do is absolutely wonderful, is great, you know, there's something wrong with that picture. Someone should be able to tell you, maybe you should rethink that. You should maybe change your color palette here, whatever. But always have a mentor that's smarter than you. You know, always work with someone that you know is smarter than you are. And, you know, as you grow, continue to look for people that are smarter than you. You know, because if you're around the same people and everybody's saying everybody's great, you all sit in that same spot, and that's where you're going to be, you know, and wondering why you're not moving up because you can't take criticism. You know, so understand criticism is really, really good to have that, you know, because we're not perfect, and we're going to make mistakes, and mistakes of failures are not necessarily, I mean, we call it failure, but you just have to get back up and keep moving. And, you know, maybe watercolor is not your thing. Maybe you're better at oil or acrylic or whatever. I mean, you got to be able to figure out what your niche is, what am I best at, and figure out what your signature is. What do you want to be known for?
You mentioned mentors. Mimi's going to kick me if I don't say this. When's the deadline for Woman Achieves? Like subscription?
The application's open in August.
Okay, so the Woman-Run and the Venture Center are partnered together for Woman Achieve, which is something the Venture Center runs and does amazing thing. It's a statewide program for mentors for women running businesses, nonprofit women as well. But yeah, the application process is the end of August. So get those applications in because it's a great program. We have way more women apply to be mentors and mentees than we can accept, but it is phenomenal watching this go through the process this first year. But let's talk about Arkansans for the arts.
Okay, that's my baby.
It is your baby.
My little baby.
It's also, you've got so much data, which I love because IP attorney data is fun.
Well,
You've used that data to tremendous success in public policy. So I want to talk about that because you are taking those action, like the data, and applying it to real life and working with Senator Elliott, all the things, and Arkansas or Kansas for the Arts, if that's right. Okay.
So in my spare time, I did work. In my spare time, I did volunteer, and I've served on Arts Senate boards. I was on the Arkansas Arts Council for too many years. I was appointed by, I think, 4 or 5 governors, and that was absolutely crazy because you get the letter and you say, okay, we keep going to the meeting, and you know, and the Arkansas Arts Council is a tremendous resource for artists in the state of Arkansas, and they help arts organizations, and you know, but you pretty much, being on that council, you pretty much rubber stamp whatever that administration wants. You really don't buck the trend. And if you do, they don't send you a letter anymore. Well, didn't get that letter. But that's fine because Arkansas was one of the few states in 5 states that did not have an advocacy group that advocated for the arts, because the Arts Council cannot lobby legislators or ask people for money for the arts. You know, you're just pretty much there to say, hey, that's
Rubber
good.
stamp.
You know, not rubber stamp, but, you know, vet people, because, you know, people come through, you know, they give a lot of money out, and, you know, everybody is not ready yet. Not to say that they won't be, but, you know, it's a great organization and the council does good work. But, you know, after 21 years, that's too long to be on anybody's council. So Bill Mitchell and I, he's from Northwest Arkansas, and we sat down and said, you know, something has to happen so that we can get more money into the arts for all people. And the only way you're going to do that is you're going to have a group that's statewide that is there for that point of advocating for the arts. And when you think about the arts, these are the creatives, these are people, you think about the arts as being like music, dance, video, film. It's so much more. I mean, think about when you go to a restaurant and they put the plate in front of you and it's absolutely beautiful. That's the arts. Culinary is the arts. Okay, I'm gonna use Beyonce as an example. Beautiful woman. What if she didn't have a hairdresser? There's a problem. Okay. What if she didn't have a makeup artist? Okay. What if she didn't have someone to do her nails? What if she didn't have someone to help her choreograph her? So all of these people make up a production of people, and these are creatives that have to start somewhere. They get their education starting this high, never knowing, what industry they follow their passion. People that do hair have to love it. I had two girls. I was like, oh my God, what did you do? I did what I did, but I mean, it's not something, you know what your passion is. And all of us are creatives. Everybody in this room has some creative spark in it, and that has to be sparked in education. And, back to Arkansans for the Arts and the need for education, the need for broadband, the need for arts and technology are so important now in terms of, and that's lifelong learning. I mean, it's how many of you have these new smart TVs that you had to spend 3 hours trying to figure out how to turn it on and how to find think about people my age and older that just had to wait for somebody to come home and turn on the TV. I'm serious, it's crazy. But to go back to the importance of arts and technology and integrating that and understanding the narrative of the arts and the creative economy in the same sentence. Right now when you think of arts, tourism somehow gets all of the glory for the arts because, when they do the state of Arkansas, they end up at a museum, they end up in Cuba, they get the money. There's nobody out there venturing for the arts and saying, make sure that education is for everybody. Everybody should be exposed and able to figure out what side of their brain they want to use. I mean, you think about physicians and all of these people who we deem as, greater than thou, and, in that sense, they have the arts. Everybody has some arts in their back. They play the violin, they played the trombone. It gave them confidence. So I think that it's, and it's also one of the most nonpartisan conversations. Nobody gets mad at you if you don't like that piece of art. Nobody gets, it's one of those things that, we were able to form the Legislative Arts Caucus. And it was the first time we had 16 Republicans and 16 Democrats. And it wasn't a problem.
And that was recent.
Yeah. And moving forward, that was the last advocacy day, they announced it. And then we were able to get a bill passed to do an inventory of the state of Act 577, to do an inventory of what the state of Arkansas had as it results in arts and technology throughout the whole region. Because as you know, most of the art and technology is in Northwest Arkansas. And that's not to be against anything in Northwest Arkansas, but again, it's a model for what works. I mean, Crystal Bridges has been an incentive for all these businesses and a quality of life. It was created because Walmart needed something. This is my belief. I want to give you what Walmart did. I don't know what I'm not on their board or anything, but I think the quality of life for people in Northwest Arkansas has changed because of Crystal Bridges across the board. And I feel like most people, I'll put it that way, in the sense of being able to do things.
Say things have definitely changed up there.
Okay.
You say broadband though.
But broadband, again.
And so I know even in Northwest Arkansas, there are pockets that you cannot get broadband.
Mm-hmm.
There are pockets in Southeast Arkansas, you cannot get broadband.
Correct.
And there are women entrepreneurs, artists across the state that need that access. Mm-hmm. And Arkansans for the Arts, it's pushing. I mean,
we're pushing
technology.
It has to be the same across the board for businesses to anybody to survive now. If you don't have technology, you're lost.
Yeah.
And, we have to make sure that the whole state is evenly serviced, starting with broadband, starting with understanding the importance of the arts in your area. Every part of Arkansas has an art story. The Delta, Pine Bluff, El Dorado, moving up to Mountain View, everybody, the crafts, all of the things in Arkansas. There's a trail you could come in the beauty of the a forest, and it's amazing what Arkansas has to offer, but a lot of people don't know it. But the creatives are part of keeping it and making it happen. And I'm really concerned that our young people are leaving. I mean, there's so much turnover. I mean, we get things started and they say, oh my God, we have started Students for the Arts, because it's important that the leadership of tomorrow understands the politics of art. They understand how to talk to a legislator. They understand, you ask them, the basic person, what does the NEA stand for? Do you know? Okay, that's right. But we've heard many other names for it. People have no clue, but they supply the funding that comes down through the Arts Council. And, when they say save the NEA, we got to be able to understand what that means. And young people, they give grants out to people, and it's such a pool of people that understand the language because they have investigated. But if we got to get our students on college campuses, not just like I said, everybody that's in graphic design, the whole student body has to understand their importance. And so that's what we're trying to do, is make sure we're building leadership for tomorrow. So that's another one of our initiatives. But back to the act, we're doing the inventory. There's a report that's going to come out in October. It comes out in October. That's part of the act. And we're going to announce it. Advocacy Day is October 4th. And I'm sure it'll be presented there. It'll go to the governor. It will go to the Arkansas AEDC.
Okay.
You know what that means?
Yes, Esperanza Masana Crane has been a past speaker for Woman-Run and is also a dear friend. So, yeah,
But
I'm excited about this.
one of our goals is also, do you know that there's not one person in the arts industry on that commission? Not one. Tourism. I'm going to get in trouble on this interview.
No, you will
the
not.
one thing is that we need a person that sits on that commission that has the arts as their voice. We don't have a voice, and it doesn't count if you don't have a voice at the table and you don't have a voice where the money is being handed out. I think that everybody in this room and all people realize the arts are the basis of humanity. We would not be here. I mean, look at us. Everybody in this room, do we all have on the same clothes? No. We have all the same shoes? Nope. We have the same glasses. These are artists. Okay. So that being said, the arts need a space that, education, just to talk about all those things in the business of art.
So you're concerned with somewhat the people that leave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also concerned with the people that stay,
Mm-hmm.
because we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the arts
Mm-hmm.
that stay,
Mm-hmm.
but they're running these micro businesses, or with women, we call them sometimes side hustles,
Mm-hmm.
and things that we're not always recognizing them as businesses, or selling on Etsy and things like that. It's a massive amount of Arkansas business
Mhm.
that's really not captured by the AEDC or even recognized by the governor as arts contribution,
Mhm.
but they are art contributions. They're businesses.
They
They're
are
running.
part of building our creative economy.
So
The internet has changed a lot of things for all people. If you're not on the internet selling, the internet at some point can even be better than having brick and mortar. Think about COVID. What did it do for us? It made people sit and look at their walls and say, man, wow, I have nothing on the wall. And they start shopping. So
spend a lot of money on Etsy.
See,
Arkansas Etsy.
Etsy. So you see what I'm saying in terms of, I think for the micro business, as you mentioned, these are women who are just taking that 1 year leap and trying it before they come to places like the Venture Center to make it their away from the side hustle. This is what I want to do. I'm going to commit myself to it. I'm going to put everything in place to see if it will work. But you know, the thing they must do is like stay ahead of technology, keep themselves educated, learn how to collaborate, realize you got to have a network of people that are smarter than you. I can not say it enough. You know, go and see what your competition is doing. You know, there's so many, you know, like if you see Taco Bell and Kentucky Fried Chicken across the street from each other, they all sell fast food. So why can't two artists, I do watercolor, you do oil, why can't we collaborate and come together, do an artist gallery? I mean, so there's so many ways that you can, you know, a group of people together selling something is much better than me over here by myself as an island.
And I can come to the gallery and aspire to being in the gallery.
Well, I mean, of course, you know, that's always
That's what I tell my
exciting.
clients.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
you want to be able to, you know, a gallery's main focus is to help you get your work out there in a specific market. The gallery must be able to market for you so that you can create. Because if you got to create and you got to sell, who's going to answer the emails? You're getting all these emails. Who's going to take it and pack it and ship it for you? Who's going to make sure you get paid? There you go. You spent Monday through Friday doing all of this when you don't have, and then oh my God, I don't have any art to sell because I've been too busy trying to do that part. Or, I mean, so there's so many ways to approach it. And so being in a gallery gives people, like I say, that opportunity to see the variety. You know, so that's, you know, why I focus on, you know, making sure I have something for everybody. You know, I still have prints. You can come in and you can spend $25 and walk away with something beautiful for your home. You can come in, if you got $200,000, you can walk away with something beautiful for your home. But, you know, the whole point is not about how much you spend, it's where you are in the whole journey of your life. I mean, the first car you have, you don't have it, right? You know, you started off with a Chevy, you ended up with a Mercedes 25 years later. So you always can upgrade whatever you do. You think about it, you know. So I think about it like that.
I still have the art that I bought when I was 20.
Mhm.
I'm gonna still
Yeah,
cherish
it's very
it.
sentimental, and you should. But there
But I
are some
also
pieces
like
you
the
bought,
pieces
you
I
like the
commissioned
pieces
when I'm 40.
as you go, and you realize that two things for sure. I can assure you that art and real estate are the two things that keep their value no matter what your stock certificate says or what happens. A recession does not make Picasso any worse or better because the stock market crashed or inflation or whatever. Your talent is still there. And if a person decides to sell their work for less than, that's your decision, but it's still, art will take care of you if you take care of it. Same thing with land. You know, I have a young lady here who can definitely attest to taking care of land that has been given to you, but you got to take care of it. So that's why I say that art it's not a luxury. It's something that you definitely must have in your life. It builds generational wealth, aesthetically, historically, financially. There's so many things that art can do for you.
So I have one more question
I know.
before we
We've been
open
talking,
it
talking,
to all these people. I mean, yeah, I think you and I could talk forever. What's next for you?
What's next for me? I have 3 grandchildren, 14, 1-year-old, and 3 months old. So what's next for me is to learn how to say no.
When you learn this, tell me.
Learn how to say no to opportunities. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities out there. You can't do it all. To spend time being a better grandmother than I was mother, because, you know, while I thought that owning my business would give me that time with my children that I so wanted when they were little as they were growing up. You know, I still had that time with them, but I see things that I should have done that I didn't do. But you know, you always have those regrets or whatever. But I think that my children are all well-rounded. They all appreciate the arts. You know, they always would say, well, who's staying in the guest bedroom today? You know, because there was always an artist there or an author. So they were exposed, you know, many good friends have come. So they're always, anything that you do, there's pluses and minuses. But, you know, you can be a better grandmother because there's things that you can do that your kids can't do, and then you can say, okay, go home now, you know. And you know, when you're ready, so they can do all, I mean, you can discipline, but I think making sure that they're exposed to the things that I didn't get to expose my children to because I was busy working. And but you know, so that's going to be there to figure out how to I wouldn't say what to do with my business. You know, my husband, we're aging. I'm not gonna tell you how old we are, but we're not young chickens anymore. So we have to figure out that aging process, what to do. My mother is 94, so I'm in that cycle of taking care of an elderly parent, having grandchildren. So it's kind of a ship that I'm on, but I enjoy it. You know, setting a good example for my kids, hoping they'll take care of me as I take care of my mother. So it's no day is going to be the same, and no day is going to be a good day or a bad day. But the one thing I do say in owning my own business is I know the value of time. Time is the only thing that you have control of in your life, and realize that you do have to focus on your time and how you spend your time. Don't waste time. Keep your time. That's the one thing you can control. And then you think I'm a business owner. I'm free. I don't have anybody with their thumb on my head telling me I have to be here at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever. But you still have to do that if you're going to be a business. Freedom is not free. You are free, but you're really not free. And then realize that the team is important. I have my staff they don't work for me, they work with me. My assistant has been with me 32 years. She knows just as much as I do. We talk about how we're going to make things happen. My framer, he's been with me 20 years. He should not be working with me. He should be out there. I mean, he shouldn't. He's a very, very smart young man. He is a biologist. He's a scientist. But he never left. He got the degree. I was like, well, when do you leave it? You know, can I help you go over here? You know, but he hasn't left. And, you know, but he knows more about COVID and how things happen and sales. I ask him, and he's right. 9 times out of 10, everything he says, I go look up. I say, well, that's what it said. He said, well, I know because I'm smart, you know. I said, okay. But he chose the life of an artist. I mean, you know, custom picture framers. How many do you know? Not many. You know, most people don't even know how to use a ruler. You get the wrong custom picture framer, you can screw up some art. You know, so I'm really sad he's didn't leave, but I'm really glad he's there with me. But you know, but the thing, we're a family. He's enjoying his life. He's raised his children and he's continuing. And you know, he may decide to go be a scientist tomorrow, but you know, he's, you know,
Or make go work Crystal
Yeah.
Bridges.
may go work at Crystal Bridges. I don't know. I hope not. But
Well,
understanding,
Not anytime soon. I'm giving them
understanding,
ideas.
in your business that you have to have a team of people that work,
Yeah.
you know, and it's that team concept. And, you know, people have lives and you have to be thoughtful of that. And, you know, you're a family in a sense.
Okay, I'm gonna look at Ricky and Pamela to see if there are questions because these are my two people of, like, if there are questions from the audience.
I have a question on Facebook, but anybody else has a question? Do you have
Oh, Angela's got one.
it's so it's inspired by everything you said from a business owner to a woman to a Black woman all these things, what advice would you give to someone who has a mild interest in art and is looking to learn and know more? What advice would you give me? More of it.
Would you, are you saying you have a mild interest in creating art or?
Just knowing more about art.
Okay.
I always appreciate museums and books, and actually just finished reading the book, The Personal Librarian,
Oh,
which
yeah.
details J.P. Morgan's collection of manuscript books and art. And so,
Created by a Black woman
yeah,
who passed for being Portuguese or considered white, and she bought everything, and that her office is still intact. If you go to New York, it's there. The office is, I think it's on 45th and Madison. I know this because I work with the Literary Festival,
I mean,
and I interviewed the authors, and they did their piece from that library, and I actually got to go there and see the library, and I'm working on hopefully getting an exhibit there for my 19th century artists. That's a whole nother story. But I would say that you must expose yourself. Go to gallery openings, go to museums, find out what sparks your interest. You got to, only you know what you like. You know what you don't like. You won't figure out what you like until you know what you don't like. And so that's why I'm saying, galleries and museums are the cheapest dates you could ever go on because it's free. 9 times out of 10, they've got one, they've got all types of things. Art events are amazing because you meet people, like people. I mean, I have my clients are my friends. They're my family. I over the last 34 years, I could tell you that I have never really gotten hot checks. I'm just saying that people,
that's impressive.
the people don't write, they either say, hey, I'm short this month or whatever, because we do payment plans for the art. But just generally people walking in, the people who love the arts have a certain something about them, I think. So I think expose yourself, go to art events, exposure is the key, I think.
so, we did have one online. So when we asked the question, on my computer,
Okay.
question came in wondering, what is your favorite piece of art?
Oh my goodness. What is my favorite piece of art? Is a work of art. What's my favorite piece of art? A work of art. It's like asking me which one of my children is my favorite. So I can't really, I have several, I have favorites that go in and out, but I couldn't name one piece today because that wouldn't really be fair. But I love every piece of art that I put a hole in my wall. I love it. Every dime I put into any piece of art that I purchase personally. So I love it all. I have a lot of children, if you will. And I think about when you come into the gallery and you see art and I listen to you talk, if you say, it's one word you have to say before you can actually buy a piece of art from me. And if you don't say it, I say, you know what, I don't think you should go home and think about it. I don't think you're ready right now, whether it's 25 or 125, because you haven't said that word. You can't say I like it. That's not good enough. I love it. And if you say that, then we can talk, but you have to, it has to come from you. So yeah.
Is there any great work that comes from things you say?
I can tell you, emerging artists, I am really excited about a young lady by the name of Louise Mondoomba. She is an artist that came here with her host family. Her parents were friends with a family in Benton. She started out at Pulaski Tech. She got a associate degree in graphic design. Then she went to UCA. Amazing young woman that her skill level, her humbleness, her just zest for doing everything correct. You can't really find that in one person, and she's amazing. And she is starting Yale for her MFA. you know, can you imagine Pulaski Tech to Yale? That talent is just amazing. So I'm excited about her future. She is an amazing artist in many mediums. Everything she does well. She has a digital, she's able to create work digitally. She does, I mean, she does just amazing. So I'm excited about her career and what comes out for her. Another artist from North Little Rock, Latoya Hobbs. She's doing amazing work. She's teaching out in Baltimore. She went to UA Little Rock. She does works on paper. She's definitely an artist to watch, and she's being collected by museums. But again, she and her husband, Ariston Jacks, he's an amazing artist from Pine Bluff. So we've got Arkansans doing big things. Kevin Cole is from Pine Bluff. He was an art educator. He's doing amazing things, lots of commissions, and just, you know, his whole piece is using the neckties example of, you know, just a short story. He was 18. His grandfather said, hey, you know, have you registered to vote? He said, no. He said, well, you know, here's this tree. My best friend was lynched with his tie going to vote. He has taken that whole scenario and turned a negative into a positive. When you see his work, you will see neckties and you see these amazing, compassionate subjects that he puts on his pieces. But it's important to him that he use his art as a vehicle to get people to understand the importance and the need to vote. So those are just a few of the people that, you know, I've worked with. I could be here till midnight. I don't think you have much time, but, you know, those are just a few of the amazing artists that I've worked with. I am not. Okay. Okay, I have to get that name and look. Okay. Amazing.
Talk a little bit about some, this figure is always best in Basquiat in the 80s. You know, in Warhol and all that, when he was kind of into that, you know, he kind of said things like, I want to, you know, square footage, like pay for the square footage per cent. You know, he kind of made a little bit of a gimmick for, you know, that he died young. But talk a little bit about how Basquiat kind of fits in with, you know, that was the 80s.
I think Basquiat was a phenomenal artist. I think that his work is a great example of politics.
Yeah.
And how, you know, an artist, he died young. Yeah. And his work is selling for millions, and that's not right. It's not right at all. And I think that he was in a circle of people. He surrounded himself with maybe some of the wrong people, and his story is sad to me. I mean, I think he was a phenomenal artist, but I think that he's not someone I would want my artists to follow. I think I want my artists to get their recognition while they're alive, and I don't want them ever to be associated with any gimmicks. It's all got to be hardcore, technical. I did this, you know, and you know, I've studied his story, and you know, I found it to be heartbreaking, actually, and not something that I would celebrate or use as an example. Yeah, but again, I think the politics of who had it, how much was created. I mean, you know, you could be in the world I feel like he was emotionally in and create 100 pieces of art in 10 minutes. If you look at it, you know, some of it was really interesting in the fact. Some of it was not, but it's still, you know, that style of art is, you know, it's not on my collect list, but I get it and I understand it and I appreciate it. It's collected. It's people want it because somebody else has it, and that's not a reason to collect art.
And you and I were talking about NFTs,
right,
before
the trend of the future.
I mean,
Yeah.
all those things of like the
Yeah.
short supply and
right, understanding that the next generation, like my 1-year-old granddaughter, she got a book, she got a toy, she got a fire or something, 3 things. She wanted my cell phone so she could move the pictures around. So she is visually stimulated by art and technology. So we've got to be thoughtful. The next generation may not want that framed picture on the wall. They may want to, they're going to have their television screen and they're going to have this screen over here that's just dedicated to art, and they can change the picture out when they want it. So that's how I see it, NFT moving forward. We got to get it away from having just to be purchased by cryptocurrency, because I'm not sure what that is. And I'm pretty sure everybody in the room got any cryptocurrency on you? No, we don't. So I think that that model of exclusivity has to change, but I think the NFTs are the Kindles of art. To me, that's how I see it. But I think it's important that we not ignore technology. It's important, but I have to say, when 200 years from now, if you don't have any electricity, you won't be able to see your NFT. But if you have a piece of art in a frame, I have artwork that's like 200 years old that you can see. It looks good. It still looks good. So I'm all for both of them. Everything in moderation, if you will. Gotta have both. Yes.
Mimi's got one.
So, as small business, there's a lot of galleries around in Arkansas. What is the secret of your longevity?
I think that the fact that we have different pools of streams of income from custom framing, books, we have all levels of art. I think the diversity in my business has helped me. I think the fact that I'm continuing to educate myself and I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve. I didn't get into the NFTs, but I'm going to, not being afraid to move forward. I think that that's really been a key. And the fact that I realize that I am the platform. It's not about me. I represent people. I am a platform for authors and artists. So I think that that's important, recognizing who the real stars are, not me. And I'm glad to be here to talk about them, but
you are.
I am not. So I realize that, it's the collaborations that we do and the friendships and the networks that we have created is the key, I think. And filling a niche. When we opened, there was nobody really cared about Black art or Black people per se, apart from the Cosbys. Now we have Mosaic Templars Cultural Center. We have, other places, the House of Art. We have people who have taken that leap because they're like, if she could do it, she's a nurse. She's not an artist. I could do it. So I think that, just that's been a staying power for us. Again, do everything I said. You got to keep, you got to create. You got to have a body of work. You got to have inventory. It's got to be consistent. It's got to look good. Consistency is the key to your artwork. Don't sign your name until you think it's perfect. Have a business plan of who's going to sell your work. Have a plan. Make a business plan. It's a business, and recognize it as a business. And if it's going to be a hobby, then realize it's just a hobby and keep your day job. But always have, aspirations. If you're an artist, work in the art industry. Don't go get a job at Chick-fil-A. You know what I'm saying? Go find a job that keeps you in the arts business.
Mimi?
So, both of you, talk about how Crystal Visions has transformed that region.
Mm-hmm.
I would like for you to predict what would happen with the Fine Arts Museum over here in Central Arkansas.
Well, I think that Crystal Bridges has played a big role in the Fine Arts Museum. Think about it. They changed their name. They went from the Arkansas Arts Center to now they're the Museum of Arkansas Fine Arts. I made a messed it up. But they changed their name. They put what they do in their name. They have always been much more than an art center. They have amassed an amazing collection of works on paper. They have an amazing collection of fine art. Now it's in their name. I mean, American Express, that's, you want to know why I have such a long name? I read this article and said, put what you do in the name. So I said, okay, I do art, I do books, I do custom framing, I have fine art. And so that space in the museum center, I was able to put all of that on the sign. And so if you do something, you put it in your name. But I think that they've always has tremendous support of families in Central Arkansas. They realize now that, you know, you got to have space, you got to do programming that invites all people. You know, there's space outside, you know, this amazing playground that's going to be there. I think it's going to be, you know, diversity is the code word to making sure all people are welcome, and I think they're going to do a great job of that. And I just think the sky's the limit.